So today the Annapurna series really starts as we're starting the hike. I am actually in the future, but by the end of this video we'll be hiking, I promise you. The reason I'm in the future is because I actually filmed this video before leaving. I filmed all the things you should pack for the Annapurna Circuit hike as a photographer. Then I did the hike and I went, I was wrong. I didn't really know what to pack. But now that I've done it, I think I know what you need to pack or what you should pack. And on the trip, our group had a nice mix of people in that some people packed way too much stuff and some people packed about the right amount and some people were missing a couple few things. I definitely fall in the category of I didn't pack enough things, but I survived. So what I want to do on this episode is start by showing you everything I should have packed on the Annapurna Circuit trek as a photographer. Not what I did pack. Let me get into it. I'm going to start with clothing and then I'm going to jump over to photography gear. So I'm going to start from the feet up. I'm going to move my camera bag. Most of my clothing isn't here because it's just clothes. It's not that important. But shoes, I have the Arc'teryx. I can't remember what they're called. Arios FL. And this is what I hiked in. They're like, almost like a trail runner. Rather than a really sturdy hiking shoe, I can't use really high shoes. I don't like them. They don't work right for my foot. But these shoes have been phenomenal. They're waterproof and they definitely got me through everything. I don't think you're gonna need a giant sturdy hiking shoe unless you're packing like 30, 40 kilos like a porter. But yeah, those definitely did the trick. So I'm gonna throw them in. Socks, I only brought 4 pairs of socks for like 14 days, and yes, they stink. They're like, they smell so bad right now. But I kind of went, wear 1 pair, leave them out to dry overnight, wear another pair and kind of rotate them through, and that did the trick. I used hiking socks, they were great. I didn't have sore feet at all the entire trip, including the massive downhill sections. What I did love that I brought are waterproof socks. And this was a mention from James Popsis. He's like, buy some waterproof socks, you'll love them. And I do. They're like neoprene, and the reason I like them is because at the end of the day, at the end of the hike, you want to get your shoes off. But it's sometimes too cold to put flip-flops on. So I was wearing these waterproof socks, and I was just walking around outside in waterproof socks, and that was really, really nice. I packed 3 pairs of shorts, including swim trunks because of hot springs at the end. I packed waterproof, wind-resistant, fleece-lined trousers, pants. These are Jack Wolfskin, and they were really nice after the trek. I only trekked with them 1 day, and that was up to Thronglog Pass, the hard day. But every single night, basically, I would put these on to keep warm, to keep the wind off me, and they were really, really nice. I really enjoyed them. I thought actually I would never ever use them. I use them every single night. T-shirts, I packed, I think 6 t-shirts, and then I rotated them through, so I wore every shirt twice, except for 1 shirt I probably wore like 5 days in a row when we were at high altitude, because you don't sweat very much, it's just hard work. What I will say though is at high altitude the cotton is nice. At the lower altitude it's not as nice because you get really, really sweaty. I skipped something which is what we call in Alberta ginch underwear. And I want to give a shout out to a brand of underwear called Beneath. They've got like a terrible spelling of their brand, BN3TH. They used to be called My Package Underwear, and they're called that because they have a little pouch for your, and it does make it really, really comfortable to hike or live in. I will not wear any underwear other than this stuff. Sorry for disclosing way too much information. Jackets. You basically need 3 things, and one of them's at the wash. One is a light sweater. Nice to hike in like the early morning, and nice to have walking around in the evening when it's not too hot out. The second is a fleece jacket, like a light fleece jacket for when it gets a little bit colder, and then a down jacket. I have this Eddie Bauer down jacket. It's good to minus, I can't remember, I think minus 20 degrees. And it was definitely warm enough all the time. I wore it in the evenings, I wore it at night, I wore it on the hike up the pass, and it was fantastic. The other thing you want is probably a rainproof shell, because it can rain. That being said, at the higher altitudes, it doesn't really rain, it snows. You definitely want a toque or a hat or a beanie or whatever you call it. The real word is a toque. This is a really good toque. It was warm. I actually slept in it a couple nights at high altitudes. All I can say is that with clothing and hiking, you never use as much as you think you will. There's no point in packing billions of things and just needing to carry it. Now, the second thing I should say is that we hired porters. So we had a porter for every 2 people. The porters could take up to 20 kilos each. So basically, I gave them this bag. My bag was only 6 kilos, 8 with the sleeping bag. You don't have to bring your own sleeping bag. You can rent sleeping bags really easy in Kathmandu. I rented a -20 sleeping bag here, and it cost $20 for the entire 2 weeks of the trek. So you don't need to pack one from home. You definitely don't need to buy one just for the trip. This is the bag I gave to the porters every day. I also, on the 2 days of the really hard climb towards the pass, I added my tripod, which is an extra 1.3 kilos or something like that. So it was almost up to the 10 kilo limit. That's it for clothing. This is my Shimoda Action X 50-liter bag I mentioned a couple days ago. My new favorite backpack, and probably the greatest backpack in history. It's got a roll of toilet paper in the top, because you need that on the trek. Don't forget to pack toilet paper, although you can buy it. For the hike, I think for camera lenses, and I forgot one over there, I'll be right back. The ideal scenario is the holy trinity of photography lenses. It's an ultra wide on full frame that's 16 to 35, a mid-range zoom, a standard zoom like a 24 to 70, f2.8, and then like a telephoto like a 70 to 200. I don't have a 70 to 200, I have the 100 to 400, and to be honest, I don't think I went over 200 very much, and I wish I had 70 to 100. I felt like the most used range actually was probably 50 millimeters to 100 millimeters. So I think you can get away with those 3 lenses. I considered bringing a prime lens, like a 50 or a 35, and I didn't. And I'm glad I didn't, to be honest. There was way fewer portrait opportunities than I expected. And when there was, the 2.8 of the 15 to 35 or the 24 to 75 was totally fine. So my camera bag's actually not that bad. At the end of the hike, I weighed it and it weighed 10 kilos. So it's really not that bad. I usually walked around with the 15 to 35 or the 24 to 70 on. So even that was in my hand basically the whole time. Tripod, I made a mistake. I brought my 3-legged thing Leo, which is a tiny travel tripod, with me to try to save weight, but it just wasn't tall enough. Early on the trek, there was a lot of locations that there was like shrubbery in the foreground, and I couldn't really get over it. I definitely missed my Winston, which is also a 3-legged thing, and it only weighs a little bit more, so I probably should have just brought Winston along with me. That being said, Leo was totally fine. It just made life a little bit harder. So I would bring a bigger tripod, or at least a taller tripod, if you are bringing a tripod. This is my battery and memory card holder. I brought 4 Canon batteries for the R system, and I went through probably 7 batteries on the trip, shooting both photo and video. I need to say too that charging was way easier than I expected. When I went online and did some research about it, it said that you would only be able to charge for a couple hours a night and that you'd have to pay extra. We never had to pay for electricity ever, and there was only one night we didn't have electricity. It was way easier to charge things than I ever imagined. I did have an issue with memory cards in that I didn't bring enough. I brought one 128, one 64, and one 32 gig, and I went through all of those and actually had to borrow an extra 64 gig card. So bring a lot of memory. It's not like memory cards are heavy. I think you probably, for the whole trek, if you're like recording, filming, and shooting photos, you probably want almost, I don't know, you probably want half a terabyte worth of memory cards. So this went in here. Filters. I have my Nisi filter kit. I brought every filter I own, so I brought 5 grad filters, 3 hard NDs, and 1 polarizer. I think you could probably get away with just bringing 1 3-stop, 1 6-stop, a polarizer, a 3-stop hard or medium grad and a 3-stop soft grad. I think with those you'd be totally fine. I brought everything because that's kind of what I do. I have 2 filter systems. One I'm going to talk about later on another video. This is the regular Nisi filter system. This is called the Nisi Switch. And it's awesome. And I'm going to explain why it's awesome in an upcoming video. But I packed both of those. I was going to pack these 2 things. This is the Nomad 28 Plus solar panels to charge a phone or whatever, and it's made by Gold Zero. And this is the Gold Zero Sherpa, which is a super powered power bank that can charge laptops and things like that. I didn't end up bringing them, and I'm so glad I didn't, because I wouldn't have used them at all. The power, like I said, was really easy to come by. But I do wish I had like a small little power bank to charge my phone every now and then. I think that's it. One thing I'd say to bring as well is headphones. I brought my noise cancelling headphones, and a couple times hiking it just helped me get into the zone, like push through the really hard times. But also because the tea houses are quite small and the walls are thin, if you're having trouble sleeping, those will cut out the noise. So it makes it a little bit easier to sleep. I have a list here of things I didn't bring that I wanted to bring, or I should have brought. And I forgot something actually. Head torch. You need a head torch for the trek. Bring a head torch. Okay, things I wish I would have brought. A Peak Design strap. So, let me take the camera out again. What I mean by a Peak Design strap is a Peak Design clip. And Three-Legged Thing actually has now a clip for the L bracket, but I didn't know that. So I use L brackets. There's a Three-Legged Thing L bracket. And when you use an L bracket, you can't clip to the Peak Design strap. But now Three-Legged Thing has an attachment that allows you to do it. But they didn't have it when I started the trek. So what this Peak Design clip is, and I don't have one, so it's hard to explain, but it basically clips onto here, right across here, and then you can just pop your camera in like that, so you can walk around with your camera attached to your shoulder, essentially. That way, if you're using walking sticks, you can have your hands free and your camera's still there, ready to pull out and take a photo. I wish I had that. Because I didn't have that, I didn't use walking sticks, and it made it a little bit harder to walk without walking sticks. So I would bring something like that. Water tablets. I didn't bring water tablets or a UV filter for the water. Instead, I bought water. And water gets really expensive the higher you get on the trail. Here in Kathmandu, it's like 30 cents for a bottle of water. Up at High Pass, it was $2.50 for a liter. But there's safe drinking water taps all over the place, and you can just use water tablets. Not only would it have been cheaper, but it would have been better on the environment, and I feel guilty about that. I wish I would have done that. A smartwatch. I left my smartwatch behind, but it was really fun to see those who tracked things track them on their smartwatch. For example, there's people saying they were doing like 6,000 to 8,000 calories burnt a day, and they were telling us the exact distance and the altitude we were at, and they were tracking everything on their watches, on their wrists. I wish I would have done that. And so I would bring a smartwatch. It's really fun. And I think the thing that every single person wished they brought on this trip was better gloves. I have my photography gloves, the Valorette gloves, but they were at Jody's parents' house, so I used these little North Face gloves. They got really cold on High Pass. And it was really only that day that crossing the pass that it was hard, but every single person in my group really struggled with cold hands on the day we were climbing High Pass. And I think, honestly, that's it. Bring sunglasses too. It's really, really bright up there. That's it now. Now, in video time, we're hitting the road, and I'm going to show you the first day probably on the hike. Let's go.
Running. Let's do it, man!
Give me situations I will be happy with. Lately over being unlucky, it's obvious that I need a day off. Too much to pay off. These days I feel like someone cut my legs off. But I'm fine, just stressed out. Lately I feel left out. Living life looking like hell. But I've been better with you around. Hey. You make me feel right when I'm out of patience. Feel like
So that's the most dangerous part of the trek over. The bus ride. I've decided that the Nepalese are the worst drivers in the world. They just took over that ranking from the Cameroonians. We had like so many near misses, and I'm so thankful to our driver who was awesome. But yeah, it was definitely crazy. Yeah, we have porters because we're pretty lazy. So we have 6 porters. I've packed 12 kilos on my back of camera gear, and then I have 8 kilos that the porters are taking, including sleeping bag and stuff like that. So we're doing a fairly fast hike today. We're already really late because traffic was insane. And I think it's like a 2.5 hour hike to Bubale, along mostly road. So we gotta get moving. Switched on the 24-70 game plan as I hike is most days to use the 24-70 as kind of my walk around. I'll probably also use the 100-400. My theory always with camera lenses is things that are fast you want to be ready for. So birds, wildlife, people, you can't change lenses. Whereas landscapes, so something with a wide angle, you can always switch to that. You can always take the time to switch to that. So I always want to have the lens that I'm going to need the fastest on right away. So I'm hiking today with a 24-70, and I'm told it's only like an hour. So not a big walk at all yet.
Good conversations always on my motivation. I need a list of names to fix my reputation. Amazing how these people use communication.
I made it, day one.
Keep me on probation. So much to do.
So the first day was obviously really easy. We only hiked for an hour on road, and we're not at altitude. It's only 800 meters here. Tomorrow it starts getting a little bit harder, but not so bad. So we're staying at a tea house, a guest house right now. I have to share with Greg. He snores so badly, but I'll survive. And honestly, I'm looking forward to a little bit of sleep and a little bit of like digital detox. Way to drag your bag up the mountain like this.
What do you think?
I think this is fancy.
So much space.
Super fancy. It's too bad you snore so loud. Hopefully the river drowns you out. It's true though. The river should drown you out. He snores really bad.
No time to do it. So much to say to try to get through this. I find just a little clueless. But baby,
5:30 in the morning, and we just woke up here, ready to hike Annapurna, and mountains have started to appear in the background. The next couple days are some really long hiking days. I think there's over 22 kilometers today. Not that much elevation, I think about 600 meters today, but yeah, 22 clicks, so it's gonna be a full day. First, I think maybe I'm gonna try to make a photo here.
you're on my to listen. You make me feel right when I'm out of patience. Feel like I am on vacation. You sound so nice singing my song, and I'm right where I belong. Right where I belong. Right where I belong.
So I'm sitting in the future editing today's video, and I realized I can't find the outro I did, and I'm sure I did it. I think I filmed it. I'd like to blame it on Greg. No, you know what? I will blame it on Greg. I don't know where the footage went from the outro, but it's definitely Greg's fault somehow. Yeah, the morning shoot went good. And on the next episode, I promise the hiking is starting. We are going to cover some kilometers. The hike of the Annapurna series is starting next episode. If you want to follow along with that adventure, there's a card somewhere around here with the Nepal playlist. If you're watching this way in the future, the whole playlist is probably already done. So go check that out. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.